Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Future Fridays. With us this week, we got Tyler Collins, head coach of esports at North Central University. Tyler, thanks for taking some time to join us today.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for taking time to have me here.
So, being up in North Central, first off, kind of give us a little bit of background as far as how did you find yourself in this position? Did you always want to go into gaming? Did you always think that you would be here? Or was this kind of like oh, I got to take advantage of this situation?
No, this is life takes twists and turns you weren't expecting. I graduated actually from North Central in 2018 with a degree in American Sign Language interpreting, and started using that towards special education. And with that on the side, I was coaching um, gymnastics and acrobatics. And a lot of my friends from the acrobatics studio were big into League of Legends. So when the pandemic hit and everybody was locked down, I got huge into League of Legends, and Valorant came out at the same time, and that was the game that I really dove into. And as the pandemic kind of let up, I was at St. Louis Park High School here in Minnesota, along with Jake Utides, and was coaching the Valorant team there. The North Central in 2022 announced that they were launching an esports program, and just as a curious alum, I reached out and was just like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" Because I'm doing this at the high school. Um, and after having dinner with the athletic director at the time, he finishes the dinner and he goes, "So, what would it cost for you to do um, what you do at the high school for us?" I was like, "Let me come back to you with real numbers, because like most teachers, I'm doing it for free." So, yeah,
Well, that's nice that it was kind of like a well, at the same time too, though, you're like, well, you don't want to go too low, but you also don't want to go too high. So I'm sure
yeah.
that was some serious consideration. So when did you officially start your position at the university?
I started in August of 2022, so I had that dinner in like March of that year, and then by the summer they hired me.
So you've now moved into this position. You've been there for 3 years. Can you kind of talk about how you've developed some of the programming? Like, how did you go about selecting, or what titles, I guess I should say, are you competing in, and how did you kind of
Sure.
come up with some of that selection as well?
Yeah, so we're a small private Christian institution, so that means that our board is pretty involved in the campus in general, not just esports. But so the initial list of titles that was selected was League of Legends, Rocket League, Valorant, and Fortnite, and everything except for League, because it's hard to find enough League players anymore. We still support, instead of League, we play Smash Ultimate now. And we have and Smash Ultimate has been one of our fastest growing programs, and we have some incredibly good players there. But um, yeah, it was a lot of presenting towards the board, like what would they be okay with us playing. And since then we have a new athletic director who's like, let's see how much we can push the envelope. So we just got permission to run Marvel Rivals, and there's further conversation going on where we're possibly adding a couple more games in the near future. But yeah, Marvel Rivals is the new game we're adding and recruiting for this fall.
Do you allow students to potentially come compete in one title, but also look to compete in, say, another title? Maybe not one that you like officially offer.
Sure.
I guess the question that I get asked all the time is maybe a Smash Brothers player is like, well, I also like to play Tekken. I also like to
Mhm.
play like Guilty Gear Strive. Are there
Yeah.
opportunities for students like that too?
Yeah, there totally are. Something about our the way that we pay our league memberships is it allows us, as long as our league support it, we can sponsor teams. The difference between like what would be we'd consider like a varsity title, those five main titles, is that those titles we guarantee that we're scheduling out their practice times, there's a coach at those practices, um, that we're trying to broadcast their matches as much as we can, and content being built around those teams. Um, Whereas like a club team is much more student led, and I check in with a designated like captain, and then so we still have opportunity for people to compete in games that aren't like some of our main titles, um, and and that's something that we're obviously open to exploring more of those club level things, um, but those ones tend to come and go just as students are interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have a varsity strand as well as a club strand.
Hmm.
And then you did mention that you're doing some broadcasting. So are there additional
Yeah.
student opportunities then in order for like content creation, graphic design, and,
Hmm.
and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, 100%. So we have a broadcasting space that I call it in stage one right now. We've kind of like layered out like what's our three-stage plan for that space. We're going to be making some computer upgrades over the summer, which will allow us to go from a one computer stream to a two computer stream with some boards and some more equipment and lighting and things like that. So excited for that. But then also on the other end, as we've grown our broadcast and as we've started to stabilize in our on our competitive end. We're not just getting off the ground anymore. We've had opportunity like this semester. I had a student who was working with me on doing content creation, doing student interviews, and making posts and videos and events and things like that. So we're recruiting, and if you're recruited, even if you're not recruited for a varsity position, as long as you're able to meet the program commitment requirements, we uh, we have an esports scholarship for you. So yeah, even if you come in and you're like, hey, I really don't play any of those games, but I really want to work in broadcast, um, we can recruit you and we can scholarship for that as part of what you're doing.
Awesome. So let's just, I guess, go right into that too then. So
Yeah.
talking into recruitment, um, are there specific things that you're looking for? Do you have like the requirements for different ranks or anything like that, or even like just personality traits that you're looking for to as an incoming player?
Yeah. So we're a young enough program that we still need just people who are interested and willing in playing. And that's like really step one is like, do you play the games? Um, s- but beyond that, like there's traits that I do look for. I look for people who, in general, are team players. I know that uh, sometimes this is something where it's like, oh, but we don't want people who are too passive. I found um, when people present themselves, a lot of times it's like, I'm the best player there is. There's no better buddy better than me. I found when those players get into a team environment, um, the team begins to perform more. So team players is a huge thing. Outside of that, I really value like I what WIHSEA and Finworks and these high school leagues are doing, just because I'm also looking for people who have competitive experience. We've had quite a few players who play the game. They come in with no competitive experience, and it's quite a different environment from when you play casually with friends or even online to when now you're playing in a structured environment when everybody has strategy and everybody knows the game as well as you do. So competitive experience is huge. um, yeah, those are kind of the big things that we look for initially. And then obviously the more skilled a player is, um, that's obviously a huge bonus to me.
Is there a way that you prefer in order for them to reach out to you, or like do you use like some of like the portals or something like services for like recruitment?
Yeah. Esports is funny in that when a basketball coach wants to recruit a player, a lot of that information is almost publicly available, and when it's not, it's available for decently cheap. Like going to a state tournament, um, the basketball player tells me, or the basketball coach tells me that he spends $100 and he gets a book with everybody's name and phone numbers and all that, which is like that's just mind blowing to me. So there are a couple services that we use that like we use Stay Plugged In. We did use Legal S for a while, and it's one of those things where eventually, if the budget allows it, it's something we'd probably reinvest into. Um, a big thing that I do, and if you're a coach in Wisconsin, you've probably received an email from me. I reach out to coaches, and I really trust you guys in the way that you assess players, and you know your players better. It's also like easier for me to reach out to a coach than it is for me to find out who Fishman 97 is. Um, so that's a big thing that I do. But I watch the streams too, as I've gone through the list of high schools in Wisconsin, and I've tried to find every school stream that I could find. I watch the official streams, I watch it back, and so those are big ways I find players. As far as getting in touch with me, um, my email is good, but also at Ty J Collins on Discord. Um, that's a great way to reach out to me. Um, and then I'm on Twitter, but I don't know if anybody I don't know nobody calls it Twitter anymore. I'm on X. If I'm on X, I'm on Blue
I
Sky,
still
but
call it Twitter. It's okay.
yeah. Um, but I'm on those short form social media platforms, and so if people are on those, my tag is the same as my Discord, as a general rule, and so they're just able to find me on those too.
I will also grab that information and make sure that it's available in the YouTube
Great,
description. So for anybody that would like to contact you, they'll be able to find it down below. Um,
perfect.
so going through the recruitment process here, you're looking for players, and now they've shown interest.
Mm-hmm.
The question always comes up, obviously, around scholarships and financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And you've already mentioned it once that you do have esports scholarships. So I guess
Yeah,
could you give us a little bit of insight as to like what the eligibility requirements may be for those?
sure. Yeah, so we have an esports scholarship. That's a recruitment scholarship. So, how it works is you have to be recruited by me. Kind of the general definition the schools work with is that you have to talk to an esports coach before arriving on campus for move in. So we call it Super Saturday. Um, After that Saturday, you become ineligible for the scholarship, which always kills me because I have people who come whose like friends want to join esports, and then when they get here they've moved in, and then they come and they find me and they ask me like, oh, can I play Smash, and I would love to play Smash, I'm really good, um can I get scholarship? It's like, you already moved in. So you have to be recruited by me before, I think it's like August 22nd or something like that this year. Um but the other thing is, you have to have above a 2.0 GPA. There can be a semester where you're on probation. You won't be able to compete, but the goal of that semester is really for you to get your academics in place. We really believe in you being a student first, and so, um, but then outside of outside of that, we have, like, you have to be at practices. You have to be at matches, even if you're a sub player. We want you to be at matches. Um, there we do 2 to 3 fundraisers each semester, and we try to schedule those out well enough in advance so that you can have them on your calendar. And those are really the big requirements to stay eligible. If something like, if you miss a fundraiser but you're communicating, that's not going to impact you at all. We're just looking for people as they're transitioning from being high school students to being adult, who are learning to manage the responsibilities of the extracurricular.
Well, that's just going to lead us right into the next question here, as far as how or what services do you have in place in order to help students that are just coming from high school into the collegiate setting? Do you have like some support structures in there
Yeah.
to make sure that they're successful?
Yeah, actually, I just handed out the papers this day to my rosters. So we do grade checks about once a month, and those grade checks are an opportunity to kind of build some structure where students get an opportunity to learn how to interact with their professors. Um, as part of the athletics program, all of athletics does it, but they only require freshmen, sophomore to do it. As a coach, I've expanded that into my juniors and seniors, mostly because for me it's, it's the canary in the coal mine. It's the opportunity for me to see where people are at before they need help. Our university also has excellent academic support, success services is what I believe they're called. The title changes every now and then, but that's where you can get tutoring. There's people who will read your papers and give you feedback, so you can, obviously not the night before, but if a week before you finish a paper, you can bring it to them. They'll look it over and give it back to you, so you have time to turn in a paper that's already been reviewed. Um, and then also, with that, that's also if if in high school you had, um, if you had different, like if you had an ITP or different things like that, because that's one of the biggest transitions that people aren't ready for, going from um, high school to college, is that, in the same way the state isn't advocating at the college level, usually you have to kind of
You have
advocate for
to
yourself.
self advocate. Yep.
But if you go to our academic success center, and you're like, hey, in high school, um, I had this and this allowance. A lot of times there's something comparable that they'll work out with your professor. So whether that's extra test taking time or that you're able to take the test in a different environment or you know modified reading assignments. Sometimes it's even the software. Like I know there's a software that they install that will read. If you have a digital textbook, it will read the textbook for you, so you can hear audibly. And so yeah, so that's an awesome thing. Outside of that, a lot of students are working on like managing their time, and so that's something that they also do. We have therapy that's available to all of our students too. We have counselors, and every student um, by like default gets a certain number of sessions they can take. If you have a situation where you're dealing with depression or loss in your life and different things like that, they will set up more regular sessions. But like if you're coming into college and you're just adjusting with being far from home, that's something that's hard. And so you can see our counselors about that and other things that you're struggling with. If you're going through a breakup, they're available for that. They just know that life happens, and so we've set up support and structures that way. So those are, I think, like the two biggest life adjustment switches that they really support and have systems for that I think are doing really well.
I think you're the first individual that I've talked to that brought up the IEP transition, and I
Yeah.
think that's a really important topic. That if you are a student that receives accommodations in high school, that you
Mhm.
do need to know what allowances that you have and what rights that you do have at the next level. So, not a college esports type conversation, but it's a
Yeah.
great point to bring up as well. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I think you did kind of touch on it a little bit here, but can you kind of talk about too, like what is some of the demand beyond academics, like when you're talking about like a practice schedule, how many
Sure.
matches a week are you looking at? How many leagues are you competing in? Type of like what does that workload look like on top of their academics?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the workload in a moment, but I do like something that is unique about our program that I kind of put my foot down on um last I want to say last year in fall. Yeah, we did it in fall. I didn't know if we made that transition in spring or fall. Um, if you look at a basketball season, it starts in October, late October, November, and it's done by the end of February. Soccer season, it's over before the snow falls. Track, you might have an indoor season, outdoor season, but like you're not competing year round. Esports is weird, and that um, the college structure is still one where you have like a fall season and a spring season. And even some high school leagues still run that way where like you'll have fall Valorant and spring Valorant and a state championship at the end of both. Um, and I just realized really quickly that students were so burnt out by the end of a school year um, that they didn't even want to play their games anymore. Uh, and so it's just like, this is not normal for sports. This is not normal for a person to need for 32 weeks to go hardcore into something. At the age of the life where they're so formative, they're learning how to do school at a self-driven pace. They're learning how to jobs a lot of times, those sort of things. So I put my foot down. And I said, all right, we're designating an in season, out of season for our teams. And so what it looks like for us is in the fall, Fortnite and Smash this year, we're competing. That means that they had 3 team practices a week. Those last 2 hours, so 6 hours there. And then outside of that, um, I work with my Smash players. I give them 2 hours of homework, basically like something that's specifically for them that doesn't need to be worked on in a full group setting. And then we compete 2 to 3 times a week, depending on where we are in our season. Sometimes it's only one match a week, but the weekly commitment is between 10 and 15 hours on average. And then if we have a fundraiser that week, it might go as much as like 20 hours, but like 10 to 15 hours a week. So it's like a part-time job. Um, but knowing that we're doing that for 15 weeks, and then um, but then what happens is in the spring it flips, and now my Smash players have the option. They can compete or they cannot compete. If they're not competing, I meet with them and we come up with a training plan for what they're doing over the spring, and I do check-ins with them to make sure they're still improving. And then they can compete in locals and regionals and those sort of things. But they're not doing the regular weekly competition. Um, and then for the players that are deciding they still want to compete in that structured team setting, um, we make it so they only compete once a week. So we only sign them up for league that's competing once a week. Um, and then they only have one team practice a week. Um, and so we lighten their load a lot, and so they can live their life, build relationships like their peers are, work jobs, and pay for school and those sort of things. So I'm hoping, I'm really pushing, and every time I see it pop up, I really push the conversation of like esports needs to move to, even if it's staggered like Wisconsin does it, needs to move to a single season year, um, just for the health of our esports athletes. So the commitment when you're in season is like, if I'll just say 15 hours just to be on the more generous side a week, and then when you're out of season, it's closer to 4.
I know you
Um,
can't see me, but I am shaking my head in like full agreement on this like one season type model. Like it's
yeah,
uh, personal opinion on this one, obviously too, but like
yeah,
I think too, it means like what is the value? Like if we're
hmm
competing in like 32 weeks in three different leagues, like I have a hard time knowing like what to put stress on, results that are
hmm
good, results that are bad, and like um I do think coming at a more focused level is very important, and I
yeah,
like the idea of giving them that chance to not only work a job, but then to also just be a college kid,
yeah,
to have that social element to go with it, to
hmm
connect with maybe different communities that are on campus as well. Like that's,
right,
um, I reflect on my time period a lot in college and the different things I got involved with, and I can't imagine if I was doing 32 weeks of gaming, what opportunities I would have missed. So that's um,
yeah,
awesome. My bias is like awesome. So
yeah.
I know some kids
Well,
will push back on that, but
and there is a level, there's always kids who want to compete a lot, and that's where we give them the opportunity to compete. And then the truth is that, my hope is, as we're working and aiming at building a national level program, we're going to hit a point where schools like Maryville, who are basically semi-pro, they're still full-time college students that, I'm not one of those people who believe that Maryville doesn't have their students in class, um, but they're semi-pro. A lot of those students are also vying for professional jobs at the same time. So like, I understand why they're competing hardcore for 32 weeks out of the year, um, but for students who that's not their goal is to go into business or go into social work or um, you know all the different, American Sign Language interpreting, all those
mhm.
different things. There's a lot more to life to them than the game, and they'll burn out if we keep pushing them so hard.
I'm 100% in your corner on this one. So, um, as 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 we transition to a different topic here, I do think that we could probably sit and talk for a full episode on this. Maybe this is a
Yeah,
round table discussion that we put down for NACAD in the summer.
love
Um,
that.
So students are coming on campus, and
Mhm.
we have your team structure and whatnot. Do you have? I can see behind you that you do have a dedicated facility. So
We do.
do you kind of want to just give some highlights as far as like what your space looks like?
Yeah. I don't want to make our viewers sick, but we have 25 computers. We're running 3080s as our graphic cards, and then we have R9 AMD cards in there, and so decently strong computers, and then we have on this over this corner, we have some stations set up for switches. We have PlayStation and Xbox as well. And then we also have extra switches that we end up using to compete. We'll connect. Most of our Smash players prefer to play off of a monitor, just because they know they're getting um, the best refresh rate and all that. Um, and then can't see it, but we have a separate broadcasting room, and then there's a room that's being used for storage right now. But that three-stage plan that I mentioned, eventually that second room is going to be just where the casters are, so it'll actually be like our studio room, and then our production room will be um, kind of kind of on the other side where we have everything set up right now. So,
Nice.
yeah. Oh, and this space is exclusive to our esports students, meaning that you have to be on a competitive roster or a content team to have access to this space. Um, and then with that, they also that you get a band, so you can bring a friend with you. So you have a guest band, so you can kind of bring someone kind of like a community pool. And then we have a switch in this building that makes it so that our fiber is just for us, so we're not sharing fiber with anyone else. We pay for 10 gigs of fiber, and so we've never had a problem with any connections or anything. We've been fortunate enough to not play in any major storms or anything, but yeah, we have a pretty great setup here for the size of our school.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah.
To go ahead and close us out here, I do usually
hmm
like to then ask our guests, as far as like alumni success or maybe upperclassmen that you have, and just kind of like some success stories that have come out of your program, or things that you're like, they're doing something really awesome, and I want to make sure that they kind of get a shout out because they've made an impact on our program or on our school as well.
Yeah. I think one of the first people I want to shout out. He's an alum who's kind of kept hovering around us, but Thomas Heimer, he's one of our Rocket League players. He's actually was part of the team that was our first conference championship win in 2023, and so super awesome guy. And he's actually still doing some work coaching some of the high school teams here in Minnesota, which is super cool on a volunteer basis. And then he does youth work, just really impacting the community and just families in need, and that's so awesome to see. And then of course the guy's crazy, so he works at a Planet Fitness, so like he knows everything about muscle. So every now and then, because we have a gym here, and every now and then I'll be like, hey, like I have someone who wants to, tone a little bit, like what's a 6 week plan for them, and he helps me write those things up. So really just appreciate Thomas. He's super awesome. On a different end, um, we have Will out in Florida, and he's doing accounting work, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's not in the esports space, and it's not necessarily like he's stayed really invested in that community, but he's an incredible accountant and like just like really smart guy and doing awesome out there. So just really proud of Will and the work that he's doing too.
I think it's important to kind of highlight how they use their love of gaming and what they've been able to do with it, and like just,
Yeah,
even if that just means that you got your degree and it might have been discounted, and you got to have this awesome collegiate experience to go with it too. So,
yeah.
um, Tyler, thank you for taking some time today in order to talk to us
hmm
about NCU. Um, Thanks again for being on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me.